Just before I start, I pinky promise this is not going to be like an overreaction and full breakdown of the practice game against the Bulldogs, all right? That's not going to be the case. This is my summation of the entire, effectively, Hawks journey from the loss to Port Adelaide to the start of the season. Part of it will be a breakdown of the game in hopefully very short order, but this is my entire thoughts about the Hawks. So if you didn't know, for some reason, I am a Hawthorn supporter. I do Hawthorn content, been doing Hawthorn content here for nowhere near as long as you think, but I'm enjoying doing it. Hawthorn supporters and I have a very strange relationship, which sounds weird because I am a supporter of the club. That also does not mean that I try to overextend, and I really don't try to prophesize, I suppose, in an overly optimistic way, or blindly optimistic way, I should say. I still love the club and hope they do well. I am not going to say that something is in good shape if I can't see a way that it is in good shape. I also think I can do that in a negative sense. Unfortunately, in the last few years, the negative has outweighed the positive, but after last year, that trajectory is seemingly going the other way, which is awesome. So let's talk about the Hawks in a big way. And I do want to start on a positive front because I do think the positives matters. Yeah, we lost the game. Does the result matter? Not really. And the biggest tick overall is perfect health. There were no injuries that have come out from this at the time of recording. So I'm recording this at about 10:30 on Thursday evening. So the game finished about a couple of hours ago. I haven't heard anything about an injury. Hopefully that is still the case. And if it is not, I'm sorry, guys. I can't go and retroactively add in a segment that I haven't heard of yet. So sorry. But let's start with the overwhelming positive that is Tom Barrass. And yes, you can, whether you're a Hawthorn supporter, Eagle supporter or not, give me all of the shit in the world because I did a mock trade that saw 2 firsts and a second round swap go to the Eagles for Tom Barrass. That was wrong. It was a first, a second, and a third for Barrass and a fourth. I can apologise if you will, which I actually don't feel like doing, but I got the transaction wrong. That's fine. Right? Hawthorn got a better deal than what I gave up. I'm not a recruiter or in that room for a reason, right? That's not my role here. Turns out that paying that price based off one performance, if I'm allowed one overreaction, seems justified. Equal first for the Hawks in contested marks with 3. Had all 3 of them in the first quarter, by the way. All 3 of them were intercept marks. All 3 of them were winning defensive one-on-ones, of which, according to my calculations, I haven't had the official numbers yet, but from what I understand of that statistic, he had 7 on the weekend, Tom Barrass. Do you know how many he lost? 0. He won 4 of them, and 3 of them were kind of neutralized. I don't think a spoil on the ball or avoiding your opponent from touching the footy counts as a dead set win, but I'm saying a definite win, 4 out of 7. If you want to say 3 because of the marks, that's fine, but he did not get outmarked from a pure contested point of view, unless I missed one at some point making dinner at the back end of the second quarter. So forgive me if I've missed one there, but from what I saw, 4 at best, 4 out of 7 with no real losses. Now, is that sustainable? Of course not. It's one game. I understand that. But massive tick there, and a bigger tick almost to Josh Battle, who along with Barrass had 3 contested marks on the day, moved up and down the ground, did not look like he got out of first gear, which like none of the Hawks did, to be honest, which again is not a bad thing. Thought he looked really solid, had a hell of a lot more of the ball than I thought. Like I thought he had maybe like 18, 19 come the end of the game. At 3/4 time, he had 23. So love everything there for free in terms of what we gave up in a trade because he was a free agent. Awesome. We love that. Giving Jimmy Warple a massive tick as well. Lloyd Meek gets a big tick. Love what Josh Ward did when he came onto the field. The Josh Ward, Jai Amos thing is something that is going to bug me, but not from Josh's point of view. Again, if he does things that are good, I'm going to point out that they're good, right? He was very good, very clean. Finn McGuinness, continually proving me wrong from an on-field impact point of view. I still don't think he's a superstar. I still don't agree with a particular independent Hawthorn outlet calling him Mr. Consistent when he consistently wasn't making the best 23 throughout the entirety of his career, but he fought through tackles well. As someone who's not really a great kick, geez, his handball game's gone up a notch. That feed to the Wizard was fantastic. Finn McGuinness gets a big tick for me. Jai Newcombe, outside of his first 4 kicks, which were all targeted at his teammates' shoelaces, gets a tick as well. Got tackled a lot, though, which was interesting. But overall, you know, the ticks are fine. I've missed a couple of things as well. Someone else that I do want to point out in a big way is Jack Ginnivan, whose stats, again, aren't godlike. They're really not. Kicked a goal or maybe two, but he never fumbles. Like, never fumbles. It's extraordinary how clean that man is. He's done away with the bleached hair. He's done away with what seems to be a lot of what other people would call F-wit tendencies in terms of his appearance, which you can think that's good, bad, or otherwise. As long as he's playing good footy and he's exciting the crowd and bringing his energy, I don't give a damn if he's got rainbow-coloured hair at this point in time. But as long as Jack's happy, that's all that matters. The same as every footballer. Massive tick there. Will McCabe, going forward, showed some signs. That first contest that he had that led to the Connor McDonald snap around the corner from the top of the square. Beautiful, awesome, which is what we can ask for from Will. Which again, another independent, or the same one actually, pointed out that Will McCabe may be a forward option. I was a little bit skeptical of that. I liked what I saw. I would have liked to seen it a bit earlier, but hey, with what was presented, did not mind it at all. A 27 in the forward line is something that I love. I was a big John Barker fan growing up, so don't mind that in the slightest. Massimo gets another tick. The man is a star, and look, copped a little bit on Twitter for the entry inside 50, and look, offhanded in group chats, like I did the same, but again, anyone with half a brain cell who's not trying to be reactionary because we're excited that footy's back knows that, like, there was no structure in that last 2 minutes. Kicking it to a 4-on-0. Not that big of a deal, guys, to be honest. He was everywhere, which was fantastic. We love that, so he gets a shout out as well. And I think I'm just about done on the positive front from the game itself. In terms of team structure and those kinds of things, behind the ball, the Hawks looked really good. Now, I know that Norton and Sam Darcy especially got on top there. Number one, pretty much happened after Barris went off the ground, to be honest. That's fine. Sam Frost was really good last year, had that breakout year. Didn't love a lot of what I had, but I think Sam Darcy's going to do that to a lot of undersized key defenders, so what do you make of that? I'm not really sure. Some massive positives for the Bulldogs, though. Lockie McNeil was awesome. Riley Sanders looked really strong. Luke Cleary did some really nice things. The Bont will be fine, probably, and fingers crossed. And Jordan Croft, I want to give a bit of a shout-out to, because he was elite as well, with plenty of other Dogs players in there, but we will move on. This is a Hawthorn video. The Hawks in transition looked beautiful. The Hawks were the number one team in the last 10 games last year in scoring from their back half, and I suspect that is going to be a big way that the Hawks score this year as well. The ability to burn teams, not just out the back, but hitting up at the ball carrier is going to be awesome as well. Dylan Moore, again, was not great, but I'm not making too big of a deal out of it, to be completely honest. But him, Connor McDonald, Jack Ginnivan, Nick Watson, although he didn't do it a whole lot in this game, did the Wizard, but being able to have at least two of them streaming back towards that centre forward 40 to 60 range, one of them hitting up at the ball carrier, one of them trying to get out the back, is going to create a really cool dynamic, I think. So that'll be really fun to watch moving forward. But on turnover and in transition, the handball game looked really good, especially in that second half, especially the first half of the third quarter, you could say. So I'm pumped to see how the Hawks expand on that. The clearance work wasn't great, as we know, but when the Hawks did get sort of out the back of the stoppage, they looked really good. So Warple a couple of times, Day a couple of times, Newcomb once from memory, were not exactly leaving the front of the stoppage, circa what I've talked about Melbourne a lot over the last few years, but exited out the back of the stoppage. That looked really dangerous, which I think is a cool dynamic that they're going to be able to add. I would love if the third midfielder, so in this case it's probably going to be a Connor Nash if he's not being the second ruck, to be able to be a give-and-go guy. So instead of the guy who's leaving the back of the stoppage only getting about 5 to 10 metres past that centre circle line, if they get past it at all, I thought that was reasonably good as well. I thought Max Ramsden competed in the ruck really well. Around the ground is a bit of a different story, but young, developing ruckman, I don't know what he is going to be. The ruck situation outside of Lloyd Meek kind of scares the shit out of me a little bit, because apparently there was a really interesting battle between Ned Reeves and Lloyd Meek as the number one ruck. That was a thing that track watchers were telling us, and one half of that duo did not play. And outside of the other options, one of them's the only other tall forward we've got. Rama's just not ready yet, so it's probably just going to have to be Weddle and Nash, to be completely honest. Am I okay with that? It just is what it is at this point. But Lloyd goes down. We're in big trouble. Big trouble. And of course, everything I said in my Hawthorn have got a big problem is also going to be a concern because the tall forward is just like non-existent at the moment. I am trying to give the benefit to what I feel is overwhelming doubt at this point. I just need to hope the instruction to Marby or Chol was don't fly unless you absolutely have to. Now, the amount of 3-on-3 contests in the forward line where Nick Watson was flying for the ball and Chol was acting as the crummer, I should say, was driving me insane. Daz, it's just a game in February. I know that. My poor missus knew that because although I wasn't screaming, yelling, carrying on, I was sighing that much. I could feel myself becoming Daz Senior. Like I could feel myself becoming my dad in the early 2020s, like from 2019 to 21, when he would see these fundamental things that he was teaching, my brother and I as kids that weren't being executed, at AFL level. And he would just go, I was doing that, and my beautiful partner was picking up on it whilst doing her thing, so sorry love, I suppose, but it didn't make sense to me. The Hawks bombing the ball high inside 50 is just not going to work at all. That's not what Jack Gunston's going to be able to do. Cole Shadir and Mitch Lewis, of course, not there to start the year. I don't know when they're going to be back. They're optimistic that Mitch Lewis is going to be early June, so that would be pretty cool. I'm not 100% sure when Kolsch's meant to be back date-wise, but hopefully that's only a couple of months. Even earlier would be fantastic in order to get through. So the answer for the Hawks is you've got to kind of work with what you've got and not hope for what you don't have, and that is simply going to be outside of centre clearances and break glass in case of emergency, you can't kick the ball high in the square. Now, the Bulldogs are a fantastic team to have this exposed against because even though they only had, James O'Donnell and Rory Lobb, and I don't mean that in a dickish way, I really don't. Rory Lobb's back end of the year was really good, looks in really good shape here, but what I'm saying is that you got guys like GWS in Sam Taylor and Jack Buckley. You got Brisbane, Harris Andrews and Darcy Gardner, if he's down there, or Dara Joyce, who's playing for Harris Andrews in the Brisbane game that is taking place still, I think, right now, which is pretty cool. So what are you going to do against these better defenses? A team that does have good key position players. Jed Buslinger didn't play for some reason. That's still going to be a massive problem. So yeah, it is on Gunston. It is on Ginnivan. It is on McDonald. It is on Moore. It is on these guys that are going to be playing forward of the ball in order to create space so we're not getting those 3-on-3s at the top of the square as much. I'd like to say if at all, but that's pretty unreasonable. But that is how the Hawks are going to be able to get it done. Ideally, from a centre clearance, if the Hawks are going to want to exit out the back of the stoppage, I would love to see not the high half forwards, but maybe the third guy. So say if it's Moore and McDonald that are lining up on the flanks, for example, if Ginnivan or Watson start at that 30 to 35 mark, and if the centre clearance is coming, just run straight at the ball carrier effectively. Try as much as they can to be a link-up target at that 50 to 55 range, and then you've got the other guys there that are creating space and hopefully can create either a one-on-one for Chol, Gunston, Deere, Lewis in the back end of the year at the top of the square, or of course creating space for your other medium to small forwards to get into. That would be ideal and an ideal way to score because the Hawks did look dangerous and created a lot of space off turnover, which I've already spoken about. I still think and still believe in a massive way that the mainstream footy media has overhyped the Hawks. Opposition fans are going to love when the Hawks are not going to reach their expectations, which sucks because, some people enjoy having other people hate their footy club, and I'm not saying that people have to think Hawthorn are media darlings or anything like that, or the team to support their second team, none of that nonsense, but it is kind of ridiculous where the mainstream media are putting bigger expectations on your club than your own fans do. There is a pocket of fans on Twitter that, top 4 this year was like a hot take, as we were getting to that January mark. And then you've got, SEN guys and a couple on the ABC as well that went with the Hawks are going to make the grand final. And you just go, yeah, that's if 110% of things go really right. Really right. I still hope it happens. The Hawks, for such a dynamic offensive team, and maybe this is just because I have more emotional investment in them than any other club. My God, we can make scoring look hard. Really hard. Even points last year. It's so difficult for what should be, a really dynamic forward 50, centre forward group. It can look so difficult. But, footy's a tough game. That's why I talk about it, and it's why I don't play it at a professional level. I am still super pumped for this season, though, and I don't think this is a pessimistic take at all. I'm pumped to see what we can do. Yeah, I can see what could go wrong. I'm still a believer that things are going to go right. I'm still pumped for what this young group can do. I'm pumped for a healthy, hopefully, Will Day. I am pumped for a healthy Jai Newcomb, who is getting better looking with time, and I hate that, only because Jai looks like he does, and I look like this. So, if God does exist, all I'm saying is I would like a word or two, because he is from Poowong. You're not supposed to look that good being from Poowong, for crying out loud. And we roll from there. You add in the silky skills of Carl Amon, Massimo D'Ambrosio. Josh Weddle is just a better version of Sam Frost, because not even he knows what he's going to do 3/4 of the time, which is super fun to watch, and his skills are exquisite. So I'm pumped for all that. Do I think the Hawks can beat Sydney? Yeah, I do. The SCG suits the way we played against the Bulldogs, which was already not great for outside of the first 12 and a half minutes of the third quarter, beautifully. It is not a ground that you need to stack the ball inside your forward half. I still think there's a chance. The thing with the Sydney game, though, is that you could tell me right now that you're from the future and Hawthorn won by any point margin between 1 and 40, or Sydney won between any point margin between 1 and 40, and I would not be surprised. And I think that makes for a pretty cool opening round game, to be honest, before we hit up the Bombers in round 1. Pumped for all of it. This is going to be an epic year. I can't wait. But not just for the Hawks, for the Daz Talks Footy channel as well, guys, because we've only got one more video after this before the season starts, and that is my official 25 predictions. We're talking All-Australian team, Premiers, Coleman, Rising Star, the top 8, if I haven't said that already. A couple of other wacky things that I'm going to try and do. Underrated recruit, which is going to be awesome because everyone's picking like their best recruit, and it's the same 3 answers, so I want to try and give you my underrated one as well. And if you've got any suggestions, just put it in the comments below. Prediction, capital letters, and then give me a category, and we'll see how we go. The glasses are getting fogged up because the aircon's turned off, and it is really warm in here. So I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching, you absolute legends. Bring on 2025. Go the Hawks. Can't wait. Hopefully you can't either. But we've got game reactions coming. We've got Hawthorn reactions coming. We've got a long-form video in the middle of the week to get you pumped for the next week of footy. We've got How Did They Win, where I'll dissect all of the close games. I'm pumped. I hope you are as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll actually get out of here and end the video properly because one of the lights just went out. See ya.